True strength is not about how much weight you can lift or how many people you've got cheering you on. It's not about standing in a crowd of admirers or hearing the applause when you step onto the stage. Strength is something deeper than that, something quieter. It's about standing tall when the crowd is gone, holding your ground when no one's watching. And sometimes it means walking a path that only you can walk alone. The strongest people in this world often find themselves standing on their own. Not because they want to, but because life has a way of separating the strong from the weak. It's not always a choice, it's a calling. The strongest are always alone because they carry what others cannot bear. They face challenges that would break the average person. They endure pain, rejection, and loss without crumbling. That kind of strength doesn't come easy, and it doesn't come with company. But let me make this clear, being alone doesn't mean being lonely. There's a difference. You see, loneliness is about feeling disconnected, like you're missing something. Being alone, though, that's about solitude. It's about finding peace within yourself, understanding that your journey is yours and yours alone. You ever notice how in the toughest moments of your life, people tend to disappear? When the chips are down, when the storm hits, it's like folks start fading away. Maybe it's because they don't know how to handle your struggle. Maybe they're afraid of your pain. Or maybe they just weren't meant to walk that road with you. And that's okay. Because those moments, that's where the strongest are forged. Strength doesn't grow in comfort. It grows in the fire. It grows in those quiet, lonely nights when you're wrestling with your thoughts. It grows when you face your fears head on without anyone there to hold your hand. It's in the moments when you have nothing left to give, but you dig deep and find just a little more. That's where strength is born. And let me tell you something else. When you're alone, you learn who you are. You strip away the noise, the opinions, the distractions, and you're left with just you. That's where the magic happens. That's where you discover your resilience, your purpose, your truth. It's not always pretty, and it's not always easy, but it's necessary. The strongest people are alone because they refuse to settle. They don't fit into boxes. And they don't play small to make others comfortable. They walk their own path, even when it's not popular, even when it's not easy. They're not afraid to stand out, to stand up, to stand alone. Now, don't get me wrong, being strong doesn't mean you don't need anyone. We're all human. We all need love, connection, support. But the strongest among us don't rely on those things to define them. They don't let their worth be tied to who's by their side or who's not. They know their value comes from within, from their own courage, their own determination, their own heart. You see, the strongest people understand something that most don't. The world doesn't owe you anything. Life isn't fair, and people won't always be kind. But you can't let that stop you. You can't let that break you. The strongest know how to keep going, even when it feels like the whole world is against them. They don't crumble under pressure, they rise. Think about the greats, the legends, the people who changed the world. They didn't get there by blending in or following the crowd. They got there because they had the courage to stand alone, to believe in themselves when no one else did. They faced criticism, doubt, and failure, but they kept going. They kept believing. So if you find yourself standing alone, take heart. It doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're strong enough to walk your own path, to face your own battles. It means you're becoming who you were meant to be. But here's the thing, you have to embrace it. You can't run from solitude. You can't fill the silence with distractions or numb the pain with quick fixes. You have to sit with it, face it, learn from it. That's how you grow. That's how you heal. That's how you become strong. Being alone gives you clarity. It helps you see what really matters, who really matters. It shows you the people who are there for you, not because they need something from you, but because they genuinely care. It separates the real from the fake, the temporary from the lasting. And when you come out on the other side of that solitude, you're unstoppable. You're unshakable. You've built a foundation so solid that nothing can tear it down. You've learned to rely on yourself, to trust yourself, to believe in yourself. Now, I'm not saying it's easy. It's not. There will be moments when it feels like too much, when the loneliness creeps in, when the weight feels unbearable. But in those moments, remember this, you're not really alone. You've got your strength, your courage, your resilience. You've got the lessons you've learned and the battles you've won. And most importantly, you've got a purpose. The strongest are always alone because they're the ones who carry the vision. They're the ones who see what others can't, who dream what others won't. They're the ones who blaze the trail so others can follow. So if you're feeling alone, take it as a sign. Take it as a reminder that you're being prepared for something greater. Take it as proof that you're strong enough to handle what's ahead. Because the strongest are always alone, not because they're isolated, but because they're elevated. They stand apart because they stand tall. They stand alone because they're leading the way. So embrace your solitude. Embrace your strength. And know that you're not alone in being alone. You're in good company. You're among the strongest. Addressing the fear of loneliness begins with acknowledging a universal truth. Most people dread the idea of being alone. For some, solitude conjures images of isolation, of being forgotten, or of a silent void where their insecurities echo louder than their confidence. It's a fear rooted in our human need for connection, in our deep-seated desire to belong. But here's the thing, solitude isn't a punishment. It's not the enemy. In fact, when you lean into it, solitude becomes one of the most transformative experiences you can have. Let's start by facing the fear head on. Why are we so afraid of being alone? Often it's because we equate solitude with rejection, as if being alone means we've been cast aside, deemed unworthy of companionship. But that's a story we tell ourselves. It's a narrative society feeds us, showing us images of bustling social circles and romantic partnerships as the ultimate signs of a fulfilling life. It's easy to feel like you're missing out when the world tells you that being alone is a problem to be fixed. But let me ask you this, who gets to decide what's missing from your life? Isn't it time you reclaim that power? Solitude isn't about being without others, it's about being with yourself. It's about taking a step back from the noise of the world and listening to the quiet truths inside you. In solitude, you're not answering to anyone else's expectations. You're not performing or pretending. You're simply existing in your truest form. And in that space, you have the opportunity to discover who you really are. Now, I know that sounds easier said than done. Sitting with yourself can be uncomfortable, especially when you're used to distractions. It can bring up doubts, regrets, and fears you've been avoiding. But discomfort isn't a bad thing, it's a sign of growth. When you allow yourself to sit in that discomfort, you begin to see it for what it is: temporary. You start to understand that those fears and doubts don't define you. They're just passing clouds in the vast sky of your being. Imagine this: you're standing at the edge of a quiet forest. The world behind you is noisy and chaotic, full of people pulling you in 1,000 directions. But in front of you is a path that leads into stillness. You're hesitant at first. What if it's too quiet? What if you get lost? But as you take that first step into the solitude of the forest, something shifts. You hear your own breath. You notice the rhythm of your heartbeat. You start to feel alive in a way you hadn't before. That's what solitude does. It reconnects you to yourself. And let me tell you, some of the greatest discoveries happen in solitude. Think about the artists, the thinkers, the innovators who changed the world. Do you think they came up with their masterpieces in a crowded room full of chatter? No, they did it in the quiet. They did it when they were alone, when they had the space to dream, to reflect, to create. But solitude isn't just for creating, it's for healing too. When you're alone, you have the chance to process your pain without judgment, to grieve without interruption, to let go of what no longer serves you. It's in those quiet moments that you begin to heal from the inside out. It's where you find strength you didn't know you had, resilience you didn't know you were capable of. And don't get it twisted, solitude doesn't mean you're lonely. Loneliness is a feeling of disconnection, of longing for something you don't have. Solitude, on the other hand, is a choice. It's a decision to spend time with yourself because you value your own company. It's a chance to build a relationship with yourself, to treat yourself with the kindness and respect you deserve. But how do you get there? How do you go from fearing solitude to embracing it? Start small. Set aside a few minutes each day to be alone. Turn off your phone, close the door, and just sit with yourself. Maybe you journal your thoughts, maybe you meditate, maybe you just breathe and let your mind wander. The point is to create a habit of being with yourself, of finding comfort in your own presence. Another powerful practice is to spend time in nature. Go for a walk in the park, sit by a lake, or hike a trail. There's something about being surrounded by the natural world that reminds you of your place in the universe. It's humbling, yes, but it's also empowering. It reminds you that you're part of something bigger, that your solitude is not a sign of insignificance, but a doorway to deeper connection. And don't be afraid to use solitude as a time for reflection. Ask yourself the big questions: what do I want out of life? What makes me happy? What's holding me back? When you take the time to answer these questions honestly, you gain clarity and direction. You start to see that solitude isn't a punishment, it's a gift. It's a chance to press pause, to recalibrate, to align yourself with your true purpose. But here's the most important thing to remember: solitude isn't forever. Just because you're alone right now doesn't mean you'll always be. Life is full of seasons, and this is just one of them. Embrace it for what it is: a time to grow, to learn, to prepare for what's next. Because when the season of solitude ends, you'll be stronger, wiser, and more grounded than ever before. And when that fear of loneliness creeps in, when you start to feel like you can't handle being alone, remind yourself of this: you are enough. Right here, right now, in this moment, you are enough. You don't need a crowd to validate you. You don't need constant companionship to prove your worth. You are worthy simply because you exist. So the next time you find yourself alone, don't run from it. Don't fill the silence with noise. Sit with it. Embrace it. Let it teach you. Let it transform you. Because on the other side of that fear, there's strength. There's peace. There's you in your purest, most powerful form. Let me tell you a story about one of the greatest leaders of our time, Nelson Mandela. For 27 long years, he sat in a prison cell on Robben Island. 27 years. Think about that. He had every reason to despair, every reason to give up. But instead, he used that solitude to prepare himself, to refine his vision for a free South Africa. He read. He wrote. He reflected. And when he walked out of that prison, he wasn't just a man who had been locked away, he was a force. A leader who changed the course of history. Now think about Rosa Parks. She wasn't surrounded by a crowd when she refused to give up her seat on that bus. She didn't have an army standing behind her. No, it was just her. Alone. But in that moment of solitude, in that quiet defiance, she became the spark for a movement that transformed the nation. Strength isn't about how loud you are or how many people stand with you. It's about what you stand for when you're standing alone. And let's not forget the quieter moments of solitude, the ones you and I face. The moments when you sit alone with your thoughts, wondering if you're enough, if you can handle what life is throwing at you. It's in those moments that you discover what you're made of. But you've got to sit with it. You've got to embrace the discomfort, the loneliness, and the silence. Picture this: late at night, the world is asleep, and it's just you and your thoughts. The room feels heavy with stillness. You hear the clock ticking. The shadows on the wall seem larger than life, but that's the moment when clarity comes. That's when you hear the voice inside you saying, you can do this. You're stronger than this. Don't run from those moments. Lean into them. Let them show you who you are. Now, I'm going to ask you to do something. The next time you feel that solitude creeping in, don't pick up your phone to distract yourself. Don't drown it out with noise. Sit with it. Grab a pen and a notebook and start writing. Write about your dreams, your fears, your goals. Write about what's holding you back and what you're ready to let go of. Let the page be your companion, your confidant, your mirror. Take yourself on a walk, just you and the open sky. Feel the wind on your face. Hear the crunch of your footsteps on the ground. Let nature remind you of the vastness of this world and your place within it. There's something healing about being alone in the world's natural rhythm. It brings perspective. It reminds you that even when you feel small, you're part of something greater. And while you're at it, reflect on your journey. Think about the times you've already overcome the odds, the battles you've fought and won, the strength you've shown when no one else was looking. Remind yourself that you've been here before and you made it through. You'll do it again. I know it's not easy. Solitude can feel like a void, like something's missing. But it's in that void that you find your power. It's in that stillness that you hear the truth. And the truth is, you are enough. Right here, right now. You don't need validation from anyone else to prove it. You don't need a crowd to tell you what you're worth. Solitude is a teacher, my friends. It's a forge that burns away the unnecessary, leaving behind only what's real, what's strong, what's unbreakable. But like any lesson, you've got to be willing to learn. You've got to be willing to sit through the discomfort, to face the doubts and fears that come with being alone. So I'm challenging you right now. Embrace your solitude. Don't fight it. Don't fear it. Use it. Let it shape you into the person you're meant to be. Spend that time getting to know yourself, not the version of you that you show the world, but the real you. The you that's raw and unfiltered, the you that dreams big and feels deeply. And when you step out of that solitude, when you walk back into the world, you'll be stronger. You'll be more grounded. You'll be more you. And that, my friends, is the greatest gift you can give yourself in the world. You see, strength doesn't come from having a crowd around you. It doesn't come from applause or approval. It comes from knowing who you are when no one else is watching. It comes from standing firm in your truth, even when it's just you standing there. And when you found that kind of strength, nothing and no one can take it away from you. Strength in community after solitude. Solitude is often seen as a solitary experience, one that emphasizes self-reliance, introspection, and personal growth. However, it's essential to recognize that the journey through solitude isn't about isolation. Rather, it's about preparing oneself to engage more deeply and meaningfully with the world around us. Solitude is not an end in itself. It's a beginning, a foundation upon which we build stronger, more authentic connections with others. Through solitude, we gain clarity, emotional strength, and a deeper understanding of ourselves, which then allows us to step into relationships and communities with greater authenticity and purpose. When we embrace solitude, we confront the quieter, more vulnerable aspects of ourselves, our fears, our insecurities, and our unspoken desires. This time spent in self-discovery allows us to cultivate a sense of self-worth and emotional intelligence. We come to understand that our worth is not derived solely from the opinions of others, but from the relationship we maintain with ourselves. This foundation strengthens our ability to connect with others in a healthy, balanced way. The power of solitude lies not only in self-discovery, but in preparation for a more profound engagement with others. After delving into the depths of who we are, we emerge with a renewed sense of purpose, boundaries, and compassion. It is this foundation that prepares us to enter relationships and communities with intention rather than reliance. Emerging from solitude isn't about losing the essence of self. It's about embracing who we are in a way that enriches our interactions with others. Solitude teaches us emotional resilience, an invaluable trait for fostering meaningful relationships. When we spend time alone, we develop a deeper understanding of how to process our emotions, manage our responses, and navigate the complexities of personal growth. This resilience serves as a protective buffer when engaging with the external world. We are no longer swayed by fleeting opinions or superficial validations. Instead, we approach relationships with a grounded sense of self, understanding that it's okay to disagree, to set boundaries, and to maintain our sense of self while still showing up fully for others. This emotional strength allows us to offer support without losing ourselves in the process. It teaches us how to be present without absorbing the burdens of others as if they are our own. This balance is critical in healthy relationships where both parties feel understood and supported, but not overwhelmed or consumed by one another's emotions. One of the most transformative outcomes of solitude is the ability to show up authentically in our relationships. When we know who we are, we no longer feel the need to wear masks or conform to societal expectations to gain acceptance. Solitude strips away the layers of pretension and reveals the raw, unfiltered version of ourselves, the version that is capable of building genuine connections. Authenticity isn't always easy. It requires vulnerability and courage, but when rooted in self-awareness, it creates a space where meaningful conversations can take place, where trust is earned, and where mutual respect thrives. Solitude allows us to peel back the falsehoods and surface-level interactions to get to the heart of who we are and what we value. With this clarity, we step into relationships with a sense of purpose, offering our true selves to others instead of a curated image. Another critical element that solitude nurtures is the ability to establish healthy boundaries. It's often in solitude that we begin to recognize what is acceptable and what isn't, what adds value to our lives and what depletes us. Boundaries are essential for protecting our energy and emotional well-being, allowing us to maintain a sense of self while engaging with others. When we emerge from solitude, we don't just return to relationships haphazardly. Instead, we engage with others mindfully, setting clear boundaries that respect our needs while still fostering connection. This balance enables us to give and receive in a way that feels genuine and sustainable. We no longer fear conflict or rejection. Rather, we approach these challenges as opportunities to grow, learn, and deepen our understanding of each other. Community thrives on diversity, and solitude helps prepare us to embrace that diversity with empathy and understanding. By understanding ourselves deeply, we gain the ability to connect with people who hold different perspectives, experiences, and backgrounds. Solitude allows us to step away from the noise and judgments of the world long enough to develop empathy, an essential ingredient in fostering meaningful relationships within a community. Empathy, combined with self-awareness, helps us listen more deeply, speak with intention, and respond with compassion. We begin to appreciate that every individual has their own journey, struggles, and triumphs, and that our role in community is to uplift one another rather than compete for validation. When we build strength in solitude, we don't simply benefit from solitary empowerment, we bring that strength into our communities. Solitude acts as a catalyst for personal development. And when we emerge from that space, we carry with us a renewed sense of purpose, clarity, and capacity to contribute to something larger than ourselves. Whether it's through mentorship, collaboration, or shared experiences, the impact of self-reflection ripples outward into the lives of others. In healthy communities, individuals come together to create something greater than themselves, a collective tapestry woven with understanding, shared values, and mutual respect. Solitude enables us to not only understand our place within that tapestry, but also contribute to its richness and depth. We become more than just participants, we become active contributors, enriching the lives of those around us with our authenticity, empathy, and wisdom. If you're ready to transition from solitude into community, start by setting aside time for regular self-reflection. Take moments to explore your thoughts, feelings, and aspirations. Journaling, meditation, or even quiet walks can serve as powerful tools for maintaining the connection with yourself, while also preparing to engage with others. Additionally, seek spaces where you can connect with like-minded individuals who respect your boundaries and values. Join groups, attend workshops, or participate in communities that align with your purpose and offer mutual support. By doing so, you'll begin to cultivate a network that celebrates both your individuality and the collective strength of the community. Ultimately, the journey through solitude isn't meant to be a solitary one. It's a foundational experience that equips you to build relationships that are authentic, balanced, and profoundly impactful. So embrace the solitude, find the strength within it, and watch as your connections grow into something extraordinary. Embracing solitude is not an end, but a beginning, a journey of self-discovery that prepares you to engage with the world in a more meaningful and impactful way. The strength you cultivate in solitude becomes the foundation upon which you build relationships and communities that uplift, inspire, and support one another. It's a process of understanding yourself deeply so that you can show up authentically and with purpose. As you navigate the path from solitude to community, remember that strength isn't found in isolation, but in how you connect with others. Your experiences, insights, and boundaries crafted in moments of reflection serve as the guiding principles for creating relationships that resonate with empathy, respect, and mutual growth. You are not alone in this journey, even when solitude feels like a solitary place. There is a vast world waiting for you on the other side of the world where your voice matters, where your presence is valued, and where your contributions enrich the lives of those around you. In the end, the journey from solitude to community is about more than just connection, it's about transformation. You become a vessel for growth, a beacon of strength, and a catalyst for change. The bonds you form are deeper, richer, and more meaningful because they're rooted in mutual understanding and shared values. So, take that leap from solitude into the world with confidence and purpose. Your strength will guide you, and your community will support you every step of the way.